All right, welcome back to the Beyond Resistance Pod. Here we share hard-won insights to build blue power and red communities to start winning. I'm Sarah Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
And today I'm so thrilled to be that we're joined by Cee Maul, who is a friend and an activist and a change maker and an organizer who's here with some really important learnings for folks in local communities. So welcome, Cee.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be on the podcast with the two of you.
Yeah, we're totally excited too. This is going to be a great conversation. And I'd love to start with what I'm fired up about this week, which was an event that happened in Kalamazoo, which is your neck of the woods, right,
Yep.
Cee? Which was a fighting oligarchy rally with Senator Bernie Sanders and candidate for the U.S. Senate for Michigan, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. And it was awesome. It was so awesome to be back in those spaces with super progressive folks having amazing conversations. And I have to just say, what I'm most fired up about is the energy in that space, right? Like the vibe and the energy that was brought to that space, which feels very different than other even democratic spaces where it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How do we phrase this thing? Are we going to go too far with this? Like there's a lot of trepidation in other spaces. And this one was like, nope, we're going to be, we're going to have a vision. We're going to fight for that vision. And I left feeling like, you know what, anything is possible, like with this idea, which is something we talk about a lot, Jennifer, of abundance, right? Having a mindset that, there is abundance out there. It is possible. We don't have to have scarcity. We don't have to hold on to scarcity to make decisions from. We can hold on to abundance. And the last thing I'll say about that, because I am fired up, I could talk for days, is my favorite line from all of that. And I might get it slightly wrong. But I loved it so much, I took out my phone and texted it to myself right after Abdul El-Sayed said it, which was something like, with all due respect, when they go low, we don't go high. We take them down to the dirt and choke them out. And I was like, typing that to myself, and now I've got a nice little text to myself in my phone with that amazing quote, because I just love that vibe. Not that I condone violence, of course, but we have to stop. Yeah, metaphorically speaking, and we have to stop like rolling over. We have to stop going high without any kind of like response or recourse. So I'm super, super fired up about that and grateful to have the chance to go to it. And we were like 3 rows back from Bernie. Like we could almost get spit on by him from his talking. It was so close. It was so awesome. So Jennifer or Cee, what would you share about what you're fired up about this week?
Well, I'll go ahead if you don't mind, Cee, because mine is related to Sarah's. I also was at that rally, and it also had me super fired up in all the same ways that Sarah did. But that particular quote that she had from Abdul, and then just various things that were said throughout the event, not only did it make me feel like we can operate from a place of abundance, it renewed the fact that I'm super pissed off at Democratic establishment for just kind of like, I mean, we're talking a year ago, I would have been like, whatever the Democratic Party is saying that I should say, that's the line I'm going to take. I was really mad about stuff that was happening in Gaza, but I didn't say much. I didn't do much because I didn't want to hurt our chances. And, that's one particular example. But there were a lot of different things that I was not entirely sure I agreed with, like, whether Biden should run again. Like, well, I knew I didn't want Biden to run again, but like, okay, the establishment says he's okay. I'm going to trust them. And so it just kind of like reignited my anger at the party for kind of lying to us, which then just fires me up to want to change the party and, do some things in it that are going to be best for all people and not the people at the top. So that's what's got me fired up. What about you, Cee?
I love that you said that you were close enough that Bernie could spit on you, because he does look like he'd be a spit talker. So I feel like
I don't know if he was. Yeah, I didn't notice him spitting, but I actually had that thought before, and I'm like, I might get spit on, and that's okay. Actually, I'm okay with that.
So what I would have to say is very closely related to what you said, Sarah, because you were talking about like energy, and like it's a very scary time in our history, right? It's in my like 39 years of life, this is the scariest time to be especially a queer American, right? And but it's also like very exciting and very energizing because with that like all the hatred and the rise of authoritarianism and all the bad things that are happening, there is this like undertow of energy that like we are redefining the way that we do things. Like we're redefining the way that we build community. We're redefining like mutual aid and the way we take care of each other and the way we interact. And I think like also the time that we're living in, coupled with the fact that we have social media and we have like these ways to connect to each other so quickly, it just adds a whole new layer. So it's like it's very unprecedented what's happening, right? Like we're able to organize in these new ways, and so like that also means that the people who are coming from a place of fear or hatred, that they are able to organize in these new ways. But it gives me a lot of hope to see like people trying new things and yeah, what you said, Jennifer, like like not going with like the way things have been and being willing to like step out of that and step out of our comfort zone to like find where our shared values are. It's just yeah, it's exciting and it's energizing, which thank God it is, because it's just like also very terrifying right now. So yeah.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a movement. Like we could build something really amazing from this moment. And that's my fear is, are we going to do it? You know, and people like the three of us I know are out there working on it. Unfortunately, we're not the ones that are necessarily going to make all the decisions by any means. But yeah, like, and I know there's a lot of other people like us too, but that's what it feels like. We're on the cusp of a movement. And is it going to happen, or is it going to fizzle out because establishment doesn't want to see it happen?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's hard to imagine, but I think things are going to get worse before they get better. And also like progress isn't linear, right? There's always like pushback. So it's just about like building the community around shared values and like building that energy and being able to weather the storm as it comes, I guess is part of it.
Yeah, for real. And are we going to be able to meet the moment, what the moment like requires of us? And let's be honest, like change is scary, right? So like we've seen it locally. I'm sure I know that lots of local kind of democratic or progressive organizations are navigating a good amount of conflict within their organizations, right? Probably at the end of the day, it's really healthy conflict. And part of the job of holding this coalition together is to understand and have some empathy for the folks that are like really struggling with the change, but also figuring out how to bring them along with that change. And so that's going to be a big piece of it too. So we've got to be able to meet this really complex moment here. And day to day, it can be so hard, like on the ground at the local level for sure. Speaking of like meeting the moment, Cee, you've had such a sort of wide and varied career that has given you, I'm sure, like lots of really great insight, lots of just developed lots of really great like instincts and ideas. You've been an activist, you've worked on campaigns, you've been a volunteer, you've been a chair of the Saginaw Dems here in Michigan. You've worked for the House Caucus, the Democratic House Caucus, as well as our current governor, Gretchen Whitmer's office. And you've also worked in the private sector. So like your experience is so varied. And so you bring to the table so much insight and so many resources. And always your focus from my seat, right? Kind of watching your career these last couple of years has just been on candidates and community. Right. And that's been really awesome to watch. And I just thank you as a former candidate, right, for your support during those times, as a fellow community organizer, and your thought partnership and just partnership in that way. I'd love for you to start by kind of just talking a little bit about all of that, about your sort of journey and the transitions that you went through to kind of go from space to space on your career journey, and how they all kind of tie together to be kind of doing what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I didn't plan to have a career in electoral politics or in community organizing. And I don't think anyone does. Yeah, even just people, like it just kind of happens to you. And for me, I went to Central Michigan University, and I thought I was going to do psychology. That was like my original major, but I was always interested in politics, and I ended up taking some political science courses to like fill a prerequisite. And I remember before I took that class, like I never considered politics, even though I was very interested in it, because I always thought that it was for people that were better looking than me, that were wealthier than me, that were straighter than me, not as queer as me, and like had more confidence, I guess. But like I ended up taking a political science course, and I noticed like, I had something to say, right? So I would raise my hand and I would say something, and I would notice that after I would say something that people would respond to what I was saying, that like my words were sparking conversation, and that like good conversation, and that there were people that agreed and disagreed and follow-up questions. And like there was something about that experience that made me realize, I was like, wait a minute, I have a voice. My voice is important, and like my voice is causing other people to think. And so there's like power in that. There was power in like using my words in a room like that like really changed things for me. And that's what got me kind of interested in politics. And so when I look at like the things that I've done, I worked for the House Dems, and like my main role with them, and my role with Governor Whitmer was community engagement. But like my role has always been finding ways to connect people, whether it's with their state representative, or asking people to run for office, or asking people to like basically take ownership in your community, like getting involved in becoming a part of your community. And it's just, that's what it's all about to me, is like connecting people in that way, because that's the only way that we're going to make change, is if we come together around like our shared values and like get more voices at the table and more people involved. And yeah, so I've been like really lucky to be able to do work that aligns so closely with like my personal value system and beliefs. And it's like a really great thing to empower someone to, whether it's to run for office, or just to like go to their neighborhood association meeting, or like go to a city council meeting, or a coffee hour and share your personal story. Empowering someone to do that and seeing someone do that, it really changes things. And yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like the thread that's kind of connected all of these pieces in your career so far has been community and connection and kind of empowering folks. And it's something that Jennifer and I talk about a good amount, is around like relationships, right? And having relationships that are deep and transformative and not like transactional. And that's something I've appreciated about you so much, is that I know I have to believe that in all of this work, you've got, a Rolodex of thousands of people that you've worked with and that you've connected with, but none of us feel like we're a transactional relationship with you. And that's really the way that you empower people, is to show up and believe in them, and really like have like foster the trust, right? So I really appreciate that a ton.
Yeah.
You reminded me of something too, because you said that. So I'm reading this book right now. It's called Groundbreakers, and it's about like the Obama's two campaigns, and it's about how his campaign was one of the first presidential campaigns, and probably like to bring in this like relational organizing aspect, and to like, instead of going into a community and having these like organizers that are from out of state come in and like get people to knock doors and talk to voters, what he did differently was he empowered like volunteer leaders in their communities and then put it on them to like then turn out their community. And yeah, I am hoping that that will be one of the things that comes from this like mess that we're in right now, is that we'll see a shift, and that campaigns will be about that again, and that politics will be that about that again, about empowering people in communities.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
That is awesome. I mean, that is an experience that we have had here in Midland time and time again, is people coming in and not really knowing our community and not really not willing to work with us.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating, because I think we could do a lot more and do a much better job if we were working together as opposed to opposing each other in some ways.
And also like people coming in kind of assigned to come in from the Democratic Party on the national level, and not knowing what's going on the ground. But I will say on the flip side, we've had the opposite experience here in Midland, which is the relational organizing that we've been able to do with community members. I mean, I can remember in 2018, we would have over 100 people out on doors doing canvassing on any given Saturday, all people from the community, all people who knew each other, not coming in kind of as a volunteer opportunity for a candidate, but coming in to like join a movement essentially and work together no matter who is on the ballot. So and I think that is the kind of work that does like create a movement that does make the change that we're talking about in this pod, which is really taking those red areas and turning them to blue and building that blue power.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so I want to talk about something specific that I think is a big part of who you are and what you do. As long as I have known you, you have been an out and proud member of the LGBTQIA plus community. That has not always been the case in your life, but as long as I've known you, I know you've had, different experiences in the past. And I would even say like, I remember when you came out as trans masculine and started using they, them pronouns. I saw such a shift in you. Like on a personal level, I saw this openness and happiness. And like, I hate to use like the trite things, but like it felt like you blossomed. Like I just saw you just become so much happier with who you were as a person. And that like, I'm like tearing up thinking about it, because I was just so excited for you at that time. But I kind of want to know, like, how does your queerness inform your activism? And also speaking to your social media presence that we've kind of touched on, because I know you've done a lot of videos that are very affirming and very friendly to the queer community. And I think about some kid out there that's seeing the things that you're saying, and like, it just like does my heart so good to think about the effect you're having for somebody else. But like, how does your queerness, affect your activism or affirm your activism?
Yeah. Well, I love that you said you think about some kid out there, because like, I was a kid once, right? And so, I think about, so I always knew that there was something different about me. And, when I was really young, the way I would describe it is like, it felt like maybe I didn't know what it was. All I knew was there is something about me that the adults in my life aren't explaining to me. Because when you're a kid, you're counting on the adults in your life to explain everything. Yeah. And I just knew, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, there's something that makes me different that is not being described to me. And like, there was, I think, part of me that thought, like, because I was a kid, so, and whimsical, right? So I'm like, it's a superpower, right? Like, I thought, like, something that makes me special. But then it was, so in the 90s, there were a lot of, like, talk shows, like Sally Jessy Raphael and Ricky Lake. And I was 9 years old. And I know I was 9 because I remember, like, the dialogue I had with myself on the television was a talk show. And they had on the show that day, I don't remember if it was like lesbians or if it was trans men, but it was like the first time where I was like, oh crap, like that's it. That's the thing that is different about me. But wait a minute, those people are being booed. Like they're being mean to those people. It's a bad thing. How can it be a bad thing? I'm a good kid. Like I do my homework, I pray, I take care of my brother and sister. Like this thing that is true about them is true about me. And how can that be? And like from that moment on, from the time I was 9 until the time I was 19, I was in the closet and I would pray every day, multiple times a day, for God to make me straight or make me not different. And I went to a conservative high school, and this was during, so when I was in high school, it was the year 2000 to the year 2004, and that was like gay marriage was talked about a lot. There was this thing called Exodus International, which was basically a like make them straight like organization. It was, they'd have like ex-gays, and also like it was right around the time when George Bush ran for re-election, and they used marriage amendments. What they did was they chose 9 swing states, Michigan being one of those swing states, and they ran these ballot initiatives that would put in that state's constitution that marriage is defined as between a man and a woman. And there's this movie called And So Goes the Nation, and it's a documentary about Bush's campaign. And they admit in that documentary, they're like, we did not care about gay marriage at all. We used that to get evangelical voters out to vote. Like it was purely a tactic to get evangelicals out to vote.
Yeah.
But look at the aftermath of that. Like I just think about the way that affected me as this closeted queer teenager, having to watch, like, whether it was on CNN or whether it was like being discussed in like my conservative school, very much like queer people were framed as this group of others. And I remember this must have been around 2000, because it was like me looking at census data, because I was like, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to have to move. I don't want to move to California. But like, if you would have asked me in 2000, how many gay people I thought were in Michigan, I would have guessed like 12 to maybe 20. Like I didn't, I thought that, and like the way they would frame it was very much like queer people are this group of others. And so that's like a hard way to like grow up. And that's a heavy secret to carry. So like all this time, this is all happening in my head internally. This is an internal battle because I couldn't tell anyone, right? So just think of like all the queer kids that have to hear what's happening now in the way that like with social media, it's unescapable. I can't imagine if when I was going through that during high school that I would have to then open my phone to open a Facebook app and to just see like comment after comment of people saying vile things. I might not be here today if like that were the reality I was living in. So I'm rambling a little, I think, but I forget what the original question was.
Just how does it affirm your activism? But I will add to that really quickly. Just I know, like, whenever Sarah and I see anything, even in our progressive and liberal spaces, that's even remotely anti-LGBTQIA, our first thought, and I know it's Sarah's because she said this to me and I know it's mine, is I'm thinking about some queer person in our space seeing that. And then, how that's making them feel. So anybody that's wondering why Sarah and I are quick to jump on something in social media that's in any way anti-LGBTQIA, that's why. Because we want somebody else to know this person may have said this shitty thing, but they're just one person. There's a whole bunch of us that don't feel or think that way.
Yeah. I mean, a powerful way that it informs my activism is actually this exercise that I came up with. So like after I did graduate and I came out of the closet, I really had to think about like what my values were, because that whole time I was trusting teachers and pastors and adult leaders in my life to tell me what my values are and tell me what I should be believing. And all this time, they're also telling me that I'm a part of this group of people who don't deserve to have values. So when I graduated, and like, I think all adults, people, when they turn 18, everyone, this is kind of a universal experience. You have to decide like things for yourself. And one of the things that I started doing is I started writing down my values. So at the beginning of every year, when people are writing down like their New Year's resolutions, I also write down my values. So like authenticity, empathy, community, creativity, those are all democracy. Those are all like very like ranking high on my values year after year. And that's what informs my activism. And like, that's what informs my life too. Like if I am making a decision, I will like try to make sure that if I die tomorrow, I want to make sure that I am leaving a legacy of my values in the world. So if I did something today that helped one person be a little more authentic, if I did something today that helped one person, that helped advance democracy because one more person registered to vote, then even if it's just a little teeny ripple, if I have affected the world by creating more of my values in it, then I have like lived my purpose. And so, yeah, that's kind of, it was not ideal having to grow up as a closeted queer kid, but I am happy that it allowed me the, like a different way of looking at life. It forced me to have to frame my life in a different way, which is very powerful and full of meaning. So yeah, grateful for that.
I
Do
love
your
that.
values ever change when you do that every year? Do they change or get reordered? What does that look like?
Yeah, they definitely changed. Like one that's new is serenity.
Oh, I love
So
that one. Yes,
yeah,
please.
but like there's the ones that I mentioned, like empathy, authenticity, creativity. Those are ones that are core and like carry over year to year. But yeah, there are new ones that come like based on like what I'm going through or lessons that I need to learn, right? Like many people who are involved in politics, I need to chill out sometimes. So that's why like serenity and mindfulness and like remembering to take a pause. Yeah. Trying to focus on those too.
Yesterday I started working on some stuff and I just like felt so frazzled because I had like 20 different things, all political, that needed to be done. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go work on my cross stitch. I need some serenity.
Need something. You need something. And I asked the question because I was thinking about how maybe your value, like for me, my values don't necessarily shift. Like I'm not like, oh, that was my value last year and it's off the list this year, right? It's gone. But I do think that, especially in the work that we all do, you can have like a catalyst that will help you realize that you have a value that you maybe didn't realize you had before, or something happens or you come to a realization that like bumps a value like way up to the top of the list. And for me, that one of those things was kind of what you talked about, the ballot initiatives around marriage equality. It was like that in that time frame that you're describing. And then it was the realization at that time that in Michigan, my own state representative was the champion of those ballot initiatives that happened before he was elected for state representative. And that literally was the catalyst for me to be sitting in this seat today. So if I wanted to thank him for anything, and there's never been anything that I wanted to thank him for, it's that inspiration, right? To like really get involved. Always my values, right? But like that value was catapulted to the top of that list when I was like, no way is it cool that I am currently represented by this man who championed marriage equality in Michigan. So you can like I'm just thinking about your really cool and powerful exercise and how things like shift over time and what can cause them to do that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And I'm sure all of that kind of those pieces of you and those sort of like really core identity pieces, along with your your career and all the amazing experiences you have had have led you to be able to kind of get some insights into folks who are trying to do this work at a local level, which is kind of what Jennifer and I are focused on, right? Is how do we take what we've been able to do here in Midland, a really conservative, known to be conservative town, and over less than a decade, kind of flip it to be pretty reliably, um, uh, democratic and progressive. So I'm wondering if you have some thoughts about what you might tell local organizers like all of us who are, in these trenches doing this work with other folks, and we're trying to build this blue power and red communities. What comes to mind as far as advice or thoughts?
Yeah, I think the best way to boil it down. One of my superpowers is empowering others. And it's a fun one. So I'm happy that I have that. But like one thing that I'll notice is, so I might encourage someone to run for office. And one thing that I hear a lot is like, well, I'm not an expert on anything. And so the first thing, I wish I could erase that from everyone's mind, because you don't have to be an expert, especially to run for office. The only thing to run for office or otherwise get engaged, you don't have to be an expert. The only thing you have to be an expert on is your community and being a voice for your community, because that's what's important. And like if we're talking about running for office, right? So like if someone runs for state representative, that doesn't mean that they are an expert on every single state issue, because they are an expert on their community and the people that they represent. And then once they're elected, there's going to be tons of experts banging down their door, desperate to educate them on each issue. So the most important thing is to be an expert on your own community and yourself. And the other thing too is like, there are so many different ways to get engaged and so many different ways to serve your community. A lot of people think that the only way to get engaged is to vote, to run for office, to come to a Democratic Party meeting. There are so many different ways. One way that I've been uplifting a lot lately is boards and commissions. So at the local, county, and state level, there are hundreds of different boards and commissions that people can serve on. Like in Michigan, there's a blueberry board, there's an elevator board. Like if it exists,
that's right.
There's a board for it. And so like a good example would be like the autism board. So Michigan has an autism board, and there's seats on there. There's a seat for someone, a person who has autism. There's a seat for parent of a child with autism. There's a seat for an educator who works with people with autism. So there's all these different seats that you can serve in. And then what happens is when the governor's office or the state legislature is working on a piece of legislation that's going to affect people with autism, they will ask the autism board for like feedback on that piece of legislation. So these people who serve on these boards and commissions serve a very important role in policy making. And the other thing about it too is a lot of these boards and commissions have vacancies that are left unfilled. So someone might think, I'm not going to apply for that. There's no way. There's people that are more qualified than me. Well, you might be the only one that applies. So like you should certainly apply. Yeah. But I do have one more thing to say that is so important that that I like to encourage people to do. And so I'm going to use an example of, you might have seen the viral video. I think I actually showed it to you guys when I came and got tacos at Popular Tacos? Proper Taco. Yeah. Okay. So there was in Wisconsin, there was a bill that was put up to ban gender affirming care for trans youth. And so there was this older gentleman, his name's Larry, and he was going to speak in favor of this bill. He thinks, yes, that we should ban gender affirming care for trans youth. So Larry shows up at the Senate hearing, the Senate committee hearing, and he's waiting his turn to speak. So he's waiting, and while he's waiting, there are parents of trans youth going up to speak. There's doctors and teachers and trans youth themselves going up to speak about like how this bill would negatively impact their lives and why it's so important to them. And so then it comes time for Larry to speak, and he gets up to the microphone and he says, you know, I came here to speak in favor of this bill, but since being here, I have learned so much about queer people. I am so sorry. I shouldn't be here. I was wrong. Like, I got an education here today, and I'm not going to take any more of your time. And then he left. And like, so I love that story. And in that video, you can find it probably if you go to like YouTube or and just type Larry, Wisconsin, trans youth bill, it'll probably come up. But it's so important, it's so important for people to be telling their personal story narrative, not just queer and trans people, but just anyone, everyday people, to just be going to, whether it's a coffee hour, whether it's a committee hearing like that, or just like a town hall meeting or a city council meeting, to just go and share your personal story, because we are living in a time where like they're dangerously trying to disconnect us from each other. There's a lack of third spaces. There's a lack of opportunity for us to be sharing our stories. And so we need to be doing it to be humanizing each other. So when people try to divide us, we can say, well, that's not true because I know so-and-so, so that we can have faces with like these big issues that are out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And like two small stories here to kind of add to that is I'm not going to go into the whole story, but I recently had like a whole social media thing with some people really tearing me down for some valid reasons. And I had somebody that I know who is super conservative text me and say, hey, I see what you're going through. I just want you to know I love you, and that I know who you are as a person, and that what's happening online, that's not the real truth. And just hang in there because, you know, I know who you are. And that really meant a lot, you know, that being able, like people just knowing each other, regardless of our political beliefs, and being able to, you know, stick up for each other, or just know that the situation is not the scandalous story that somebody says. But then also I'll just add, like with the boards and commissions, and definitely local, you know, Midland's become so much more progressive. We were just talking to a friend who applied for the library board, and she was like, I'm going to apply for this because I want to make sure that we don't end with some moms for liberty person end up with them on this board. Well, she said they ended up getting a record number of people that signed up for the library board, which made us so happy because we didn't even recruit for that, you know. But it's definitely something I think that we should be doing, is making sure that people know in progressive spaces, hey, I don't care if it's the sewer board, whatever, just like we need people in those spaces. You never know what's going to come up, and we need voices and people creating community and being part of the community.
Yeah, well, and something you just said too is it's like the internet is not real life.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because it feels like it is, right? Because it's right in the palm of our hands. And there's so many opinions on there and a lot of hatred. But it's so important because like the way that I see queer and trans people being hated on and demonized on social media platforms, like that is happening in real life, but not to that extent. And like people would not say things to my face that they would say to a screen. And so it's so important that, we're having those real tough conversations in like human gathering context to like combat, this like almost like we're living in two separate worlds. And like we have to like combat that digital world with like real human connection.
That's something that Bernie Sanders actually was talking about on Saturday, was the loss of like real community over the last, 50 years or so, with the, increasing availability of technology and the internet and now AI and all of that stuff. So important that we try hard to hold on to it, because that's where the power is too. If we're looking to like build power and, change things at the local level. It's about community. Like that is the foundation of all of that. And it's so, so important to not lose sight of that. We talk a lot about like leveraging, social media and using all the sort of platforms, and you have to do that too. But you can't do that at the expense of the actual transformational, relational community building. That's really going to make a difference, and it makes a difference locally, and then it makes a difference beyond sort of beyond local into your region, beyond that into your state, beyond that and into the sort of federal level. So what we're doing locally is just critical to all of that, and community is the foundation of it all. Well, see, we usually end our conversations with a bit of an icebreaker, kind of a silly way to kind of get to know folks a little more deeply. I had one question, but I just swapped it out for another one because of the way this conversation went. You mentioned serenity as one of your top values, and that I resonated with that a ton. My question is, what are you doing these days to bring serenity into your life or back into your life? What are your techniques or what are your activities? Jennifer, I'm going to ask you the same question, but you can't answer cross stitch. You have to give me a different response other than cross
My
stitch.
stress reliever.
I know that's one, but give me another answer. What else do you do to find serenity?
Do you want to go first, or do you
not
know what do you need to think about it for a second?
I think I can go. So there is this is actually a baritone ukulele, but like I've been, so I play music is a big part of it. But one that's like maybe a little nerdy and newer is I'm really trying to just like embrace joy and like in a cringe way, I guess. So I'm going to use the word cringe. But what I mean by that is like, even so this weekend I was at a wedding, and I happened to be with some folks that I knew. This was like a past coworker's wedding, and the people at the table with me were all people that I knew through work, a past job, and they were just like extremely good people. Everyone at this table I know as like just a genuine, good-hearted person, and like I almost cried, almost got teary-eyed because I like made sure to like tell them that, right? Like, so when I have these like internal thoughts that are about like joy, I like make sure to like externalize that. So I'm like, you are all, I'm like, I just want you to know that you are all amazing humans, and like I am so grateful to be here with you. And for the two of you, that is also true. I'm so grateful to be here with you.
Thank you. You too.
And like, even when that's like, yeah, and my wife's like, are you gonna cry about it? And I'm like, maybe. But it's just like, yeah, just like making sure that I'm letting people know how much I appreciate them, and just letting myself feel full joy. Because it's an act of, it's a revolutionary act in the society that we're in right now. To fully embrace joy is a revolutionary act. And so, that is one of the main ways I'm trying to just like give myself that. Yeah.
I love that. Joy is resistance.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
In fact, I had a moment like that this weekend when we were at the Bernie Abdul rally. We were like on our way out afterwards. There was like a whole car full of us. And I'm like, guys, I just want to do a group hug. I just love you all so much.
So important.
That sounds like exactly what I'm talking about. A random group hug. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
I love it. Jennifer, do you want to share?
Sure.
What are you doing to bring serenity into your life other than cross-stitching?
So, okay. I'm not sure. Kind of. I watch baseball. I love the Detroit Tigers. Lions are going to start soon. I'll be watching them too. I love to watch a sporting event because to me, it is relaxing. It is joyful. Even if we lose, like, if it's a huge game, I'm probably going to cry. But just, if it's just, I can handle losing. I don't care. I love sports. I love watching it. I care about my team. So that's part of it. The problem is that I have a 13-year-old, and he also loves watching sports, but he does not get serenity out of watching sports the way I do. And then he ruins my serenity. He freaks out every time. He's like, oh, we're going to lose. Kent, we're up 10-1. Yeah, but they just got a point. I can see it. We're going downhill now. It's like, dude, just stop, please. So I do love watching sports. It is calming to me, but apparently not with my child.
Right. You have to not watch sports with poor Kent.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So
mine, I have two that I'm wrestling with, and I'm going to go with, because we've been talking a lot about community. I really love working with other folks to do on a project. Like I love just like being creative together and project planning together. I love noticing a thing that might need a spreadsheet and like making a spreadsheet for it, having like tasks delineated and going off and doing the thing and reporting back to the group. And I love doing that with people I love. And so that might sound really weird because like I do that as a professional, but I love it. And so the thing that's going on right now is there's a group of us that are all coming together to help a dear friend of ours put on an amazing wedding because she deserves an amazing wedding. And we're doing a lot more work than your typical like friends of a bride would do. But we get together, we have what we call takeout Tuesdays, and we all come to my deck and get takeout and just focus on wedding planning. And we had some time in my kitchen a week ago where we all, put stickers on the envelopes and got the invitations out the door. And then we listed out the things that we still needed to do and how we were going to accomplish them. And to me, like just spending that time with my friends and people I love doing something that's really meaningful, and especially these days if it's not politics and if it's not related to work, that gives me some serenity. I can go to sleep those nights feeling very sort of calm and serene. So yeah. Well, Cee, thank you so much for joining us on the pod. Thanks to everyone who's listening today for this episode of the pod. We're Beyond Resistance, and we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. So we'll hear from you all next time. Thanks so much for listening.
See you right later.
Thank you.